Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub Chatting with ISO Experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and today I'm here with the lovely Suzanne Weber Smatko, Manager of Consulting Services here at Core Business Solutions. Glad you could join us again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be here and fun, X.
It is fun. I always enjoy having fun with you and talking about this because you pick on me a little bit, and that's cool.
And you and that goes both ways.
No, never.
You pick on me too.
Never, not me. Well, this week's podcast is called "What is ISO 9001?" For the next couple podcasts, we're going to have a series called "What Is," where we're going to look at sort of a newbie approach to some standards, some things like that. People just kind of getting their feet wet, that kind of thing. Today is ISO 9001. What is ISO 9001? Before we get started, let's hear a little bit about your journey.
Okay. So I have been in quality for a little over 30 years and have held multiple roles in quality, primarily aerospace. I spent 23 years in aerospace. I have worked at a few OEMs. Yeah, so I know a little bit about quality. Have always been really passionate about implementing and talking quality. So now I'm about a little over 3 years ago, going on 4 years, I've joined the core team.
Mm-hmm. Glad to have you here.
It's I get to do what I love to do. I get to help businesses implement quality management systems, and some get passionate about it and some don't. But you know what? It's a journey for everybody.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Core does know how to hire people that are passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
Yeah.
But that really, comes down to the customers. They can see it's like, if you're passionate about it, maybe instead of it's just like, this is something we got to get through. It's like, oh, okay. Somebody actually cares about this. Maybe I should take a focus on it.
Yeah,
too.
it's really exciting when you get to see the customers, see the value in the quality management system. And you know what? It's a continual learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in quality for, like I said, over 30 years, and I learn every day. I learn from our customers. It's just a continued, it's like continuous improvement, right?
Yep.
It's never ending.
Yep.
So I call it never ending improvement, but it's a never ending journey and education. And I love what I do.
That's great. Well, we're glad you're here. And let's kick us off with the first question. Again, a very high level. What is a QMS? In this case, ISO 9001.
A QMS, which we'll refer to quite often, I think, in this podcast, but a quality management system is basically defined as a formalized system that documents processes, procedures, and responsibilities in the organization to achieve quality objectives, which are things that you're going to measure. I think we'll talk a little bit about that later on too. But but basically, the QMS helps an organization coordinate and direct activities ultimately to meet customer satisfaction and to improve the bottom line of a business.
Okay. And that is effectively what ISO 9001 is.
Yes.
It's QMS.
Yes. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
Okay. Well, many people ask, what's the return on investment on this? What's the ROI? And is it worth it? Do you feel that it is? Well, I know you feel it is worth it, but why is it worth it?
Well, I'd love to be able to put a dollar figure on it because many people want to know what is my return on investment going to be when you're going to invest in a certification. It's different for everyone. Meeting the customer's requirements, which helps instill confidence in the organization in many different ways. In turn, leading more customers, more sales, repeat business. But more importantly for the business itself, it is standardizing, making yourself more efficient so that you can have a consistent product quality or service quality, whatever you're providing to the customer, and protecting your profit.
So it's almost how much you put into it to some degree as well, what you're going to get out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It all depends on that. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
What are some examples of that, maybe?
If you invest in engaging your employees and giving them the resources to be successful, to do their jobs, although it's not required for ISO 9001 to have defined procedures like it was years ago, it is required of you to have competent people. So if companies invest, for me, which is the most important thing in engaging the workforce, making them understand that they contribute or how they contribute to quality by giving them the tools that they need, work instructions, training, effective communication. That's what makes the company a better place to work for your employees, but also will directly impact your bottom line.
Right. So if you're engaging with your employees, you're less likely to lose them. So you're going to get some employee retention there. Don't have to go out, hire somebody new, different wage, maybe.
Yeah, turnover is a big problem right now in the
Yeah, it
industry.
really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
People have employees that show up and, they go out for lunch and they don't come back.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
it's
mean?
crazy.
It's
or just don't show up.
or just don't show
and then
up.
they ghost you, and that's it.
So it's a level of engagement.
Yep. So there are clearly some major benefits. So moving on, does this fit any industry? You sort of alluded to it, but a lot of different people can be, in a service, tech, manufacturing. Manufacturing makes sense. What about those other ones? Does it fit that?
Yeah. So regardless of whether you're an employee of one or employee of 1,500, you have standardized processes when you're ISO 9000 certified.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is, every business has key processes, right? Every business can measure something,
right,
to determine how well you are doing. You've heard me say this, I think, in prior podcasts, mm-hmm. but if it's not measured, it's not managed.
Yeah. How do you know?
So I think that whether you're providing a service to someone or you're providing a product, it certainly is applicable to you, mm-hmm. Because of those things, because you have key processes. In short form is mm-hmm. basically if you can identify those key processes and you can put a measurement to it, then yes, I mean, you have a quality management system. Yep. It's all about measuring those processes, those key processes that you have, to determine whether or not you are doing well or not doing well. And right. If you're doing well, fantastic. If you're not doing well, as you measure it and collect that data, that's going to drive you to the things that you need to focus on to improve.
Right. Okay. So anybody, any type of service,
anybody.
Any kind of med tech, any type of manufacturing. So is it time intensive when it comes to 9001?
It really depends on how high of a hill you need to climb. Mm-hmm. If you don't have anything, right? It also depends on how many people are going to be engaged, mm-hmm. right? So, one of the biggest challenges that we face with some of the customers that we help implement ISO systems is they want to overcomplicate it. They think it's just very, very hard to achieve and it's going to mm-hmm. be so time consuming. And it really is not. Again, if you can identify your key processes and you can identify your objectives, that's how you start.
Right.
And then after you get started, there are some requirements in the standard that you are required to have processes, mm-hmm. right? You're required to have document control. You're required to document nonconformances and corrective actions, formalize customer feedback, calibration systems, preventative maintenance systems. If you think about supplier qualification mm-hmm. and evaluation so that you can effectively manage your supply chain. If you have help to implement those, mm-hmm. That's great. A quality management system also gives people a level of ownership. Mm-hmm. Years ago, you used to have a quality manager that sat in the back room and kind of handled everything. Mm-hmm. Now it's, you need to share the love.
Right.
Other people need to have ownership of that. So
many hands make light work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it does give some ownership and accountability, but implementing the process, identifying the key processes and identifying things that you can measure is the easy part.
Right.
Implementing
and it all doesn't have to be done at once either.
No,
you
absolutely
can be certified
not.
And
you can start off small. You're not expected to be perfect when you go into get ISO certified because of course your quality management system is going to mature over time. Right. If you have nothing to implement those key processes, it's not, does it take a little bit of time? Yeah. Does it require customers to be engaged? Absolutely it does. Mm-hmm. But the benefits of those things, collecting the information, think about it. The process is required of the standard document and record control. You can't just have a free-for-all with documents, right? The process required of collecting nonconformance and corrective action data. That's going to drive you to identify areas of improvement. Mm-hmm. Okay. So those processes that are required for you to implement into your quality management system are not cumbersome.
No. And you're probably, I know we talked with another Suze about this, you're probably doing half of it already. It just
Absolutely.
might not be formalized. The word you said earlier was formalized.
Yes.
You're paying attention to what your supply chain's doing.
Yes.
You just might not have written it down and actually put a check mark. Okay, these guys have been approved.
Yeah.
So some of it's writing it down, some of it's knowing, okay, this is why we do this. This is why. And then you're looking at it like, oh my gosh, no wonder we've been slow on getting things out the door, because this specific supplier is always late on getting us stuff for us to make our products for manufacturing. So once you're looking at that, you can evaluate better too.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by measuring it. For purchasing and receiving or managing your supply chain, start measuring their on-time delivery performance. Start measuring their product quality come in the door. Those are all good things, because if they send you something that's non-conforming, it's causing a constraint on your production shop floor, right? It's costing you time and money. Ultimately, it's going to impact your customer. So those are the things that we want to identify to measure. But you can do that very easily. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, we have many customers that, come in to get ISO certified, and they're like, wow, we have a lot to do. And we take them through the steps of identifying those key processes, those objectives, and they are already doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing business every day. You're purchasing stuff, you're receiving stuff, you're manufacturing stuff, or you're providing a service. You're already doing that.
Yeah.
Right? When you go to get ISO certified. Unless you're building a company from the ground up, which is also a good opportunity to implement it right up on the upfront. But if you're a business that's already doing stuff every day, what this is going to do is just document it. We're going to wrap it in a little package and put a bow around it and formalize documentation for you, so that you can effectively communicate that to registrars, customers. It makes your audits a lot easier.
Yep. It's almost being intentional to some point. Well, with all of this in mind, many hands make light work, but do you have to have somebody that runs your QMS? Someone specific? Do you have to hire somebody?
No.
Okay.
You don't. It all comes to the ownership part of it, right? If you divide and conquer and allow people to have ownership, it also allows you to engage a culture of quality. So I always recommend that it's not just one person who's doing that. You don't need a full-time person to manage the quality system. It's nice to have a dedicated person. You do have to have a dedicated person, in your organization that is going to manage the quality management system.
Is that the MREP?
That is like a management representative.
Okay.
Yes. They're the ones making sure that you're conducting your management reviews, that you are closing nonconformances and corrective actions out in a timely manner. They're not necessarily the ones that are documenting nonconformances or corrective actions, because again, people have to have ownership of that.
Right.
But it does not require just one dedicated. It should be a team effort in order to do that. Now, again, it depends on the company, right? The size of the company. You might have a dedicated quality manager who owns that, and then delegates out, subsections of the requirements to other owners. But so no, I guess you don't have to have a dedicated person. If you're lucky enough to have, the head count to be able to designate one person, that's fine. But that one person should still engage other people to have some ownership.
It's not them doing all the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Years ago, quality managers used to own all the quality problems. How are you going to solve them? Well, most of those things came from other departments, whether it came from operations or whether it came from engineering. And, those people have to have ownership, because what's important, I stress this a lot, is internal to internal customer satisfaction, right? Your purchasing department is a customer of your sales department. Your design and development is a customer to your contract review or your customer sales process. So if you don't have ownership and you have a break in that chain, right, or a breakdown in communication in that chain, or don't have effective processes, it really impacts the entire organization. Well, so everybody has to have ownership of that.
Yep, it's definitely getting people that know what they're doing. And I know that we've talked about this before, with the engagement part. If somebody's working on a shop floor, or somebody's the one that's actually calling people and working with the customers, who's going to better have an idea of how to make something better than those people?
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be somebody that's sitting upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
They might be able to say, hey, we have an issue here.
Yeah.
But you engage them in how we
Yeah,
got to
I
fix
got
it.
a prime example of that. You can't have a manufacturing engineering writing work instructions for somebody that you hired that has no manufacturing experience,
Right.
right? You can't expect those people to understand,
Right.
right? It's a different level of education
Yeah.
there. It's a different level. Everybody learns
It's a different
differently.
function. Yeah.
So engage the workforce. They're
Yeah.
the ones who are building it. Get their input to build your work instructions.
Yep.
But yeah.
All this is really helpful, but everybody wants to know, what's it cost? Where's the money? How am I going to have to spend on this?
Well, what I would say to that is to implement, it's reasonable. To sustain it, there's a few variables that you're taking into consideration. I'm not even quite sure if I'm going to quote all of them, but there's employee count, there's multi-sites, how many sites that you have, the scope of your accreditation. It varies. You could reach out to there's different registers. You get different quotes on that. To implement, it's fairly reasonable.
So that's one cost is you're gonna have to pay a registrar, which sends an auditor to audit your system and stuff. Then you're gonna have another cost if you have somebody to help you, correct? Which could be someone like Core Business Solutions or a consultant.
Yep,
Something like
absolutely.
that.
Yep.
So those are the main costs.
Yeah, they're definitely, they're two different costs. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's one of those things that, sometimes it's just better to have an expert help you.
Yeah.
I know when I've had my own business. Now I do it on the side, and I remember when I first started doing it, I'm like, okay, I went to this really good tax professional and I said, I want to pay you double. And they looked at me and like, why? I'm like, I want you to show me how you do this.
Yes.
And I did. And they were semi-retired, so they didn't mind. It wasn't like I was taking money out of their pockets. They were only doing a handful anymore.
Right.
And they kind of showed me and walked me through how to do some taxes as a self-employed person and all that. And then I went from there. But if I would have tried to learn it on my own, and a lot of this stuff sounds like tax or lawyerese, where you're reading the standard and you're like, okay, it's telling me to do this, but how do I do it?
Yeah.
Or, it's generic enough so it'll fit any type of business.
Yes.
How do I define that? And what's the auditor really going to look for? That's why it's helpful to have that expert.
It is helpful. It is helpful. I'll tell you why also is because, again, people have a tendency to think that it's something that you can't accomplish or that it's time and resources and it's too much. You can overcomplicate a quality management system very easily. Start small.
Yeah.
Define your key processes, your objectives, define your key process, the activities in your key processes, define your measurables, right? You don't have to have work instructions and procedures, and you don't have to have all of that done before, you go for certification, right? There's minimal requirements. So getting the help to understand that is really key.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times people just thank us for what we do because we made it simple. One of our values is to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because you're expected to mature over time. If you think that you have to have, your company needs work instructions or SOPs, whatever you think that your company has, put it on a list, put it on your continuous improvement plan, because one of your obligations as an ISO certified company is to continuously improve. Right. And we all have a laundry list of things that we want to fix when we come into an organization or in a business.
Right.
You know what? Do the foundational stuff first, add that to your improvement plan, and then prioritize it and start pecking away at it. Right. You don't have to boil the ocean.
Right. All right. So how long is all this good for?
Well, if it's done right, forever.
Okay. Let me rephrase that question. The quality management system, sure, but when I'm talking about ISO, how long is the certification good for?
Okay. The certification is good for 3 years. So what'll happen is you will go through once you're ready to reach out to a register, you will go through a stage 1 and stage 2 audit. And then the second year you'll go through a surveillance. That'll be a full-blown audit to all the elements of the standard.
So the first one, the certification audit, is full-blown.
It's full-blown. It's full-blown. You'll go through all the elements of the standard. The second year you'll have a surveillance audit. And in the surveillance audit, they'll do certain sections deemed by the auditor. And then the third year, they'll go through the other elements
So
that
what
they
they
didn't
didn't do
go
the
through the
first
first time.
The first
And then on the
surveillance, okay.
fourth year, it's a recertification
Okay.
audit. So they'll go through the full elements
So it's a
again.
3-year cycle.
Yeah,
to
3-year
stay that.
cycle.
Okay. Well, this is all really helpful. You're clearly knowledgeable with all of your, I don't know how you can be doing this 30 years, but whatever.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
It doesn't seem like 30 years. It goes by like lightning.
Things just speed up too.
Yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts that might, somebody, what the heck is this thing that maybe we didn't cover? What is ISO 9001?
I like to pride myself in just explaining to people that it's beneficial to a company, right? You might not see the return on investment for the bottom line because we all know it's about the bottom line.
Maybe you're being pressured into doing this right now.
Or maybe you're being
slow
pressured
down.
into
Yeah.
doing it. I pride myself in telling people, you know what, see the value in the quality management system. And what is really, really nice is when, we help customers, again, we help our clients get certified. When they see the value in it, it's like that aha moment and they just can't get enough of it.
That's great.
There's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of values to it. Otherwise, it could be organized chaos or disorganized chaos.
Yeah. And getting a handle on your business.
What's really, really nice is that people don't realize that when you start measuring something, it allows you to make data-driven decisions to focus on the right stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
And that can be eye-opening because you don't know.
Absolutely.
Don't know.
You could be working on something that doesn't impact you positively or your bottom line at all.
Imagine you didn't have a gas gauge. That's all you're doing is you're looking at that gauge saying it's going to give you information on what you need to do.
Yep.
Well, this has really been great. I want to thank you again for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's always fun to be here, X.
Oh, we want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative and you know a little bit more about what ISO 9001 is. If you're looking for more information about core business solutions and how we can help you with ISO certification or cybersecurity or even customized training, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com or you can visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, be sure to do so, and that way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everybody.